we drinking?
We are drinking Wells Banana Bread Beer.
Yum.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've tried this.
Fruity
I feel like
beer.
I tried some sort of bread beer before and it was not particularly good.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. I like it.
Get a hint.
I should have known you'd
Oh,
like
yeah,
a fruity
yeah.
beer.
I can see that.
Because of the apple stuff, you don't do beer.
Cider. Yeah. Okay, so we're back here at the Craft Beer Cellar in Plymouth, Mass. And we're here with two lovely ladies, Kristen McKinney and Heather Cashman, both who are teachers. So I brought them on today to talk about art and education. And Heather is an art teacher at Fairhaven, Mass. And Kristen, I find an enigma for many reasons, but partly because she is a musician who's artistically inclined and teaches science.
And math.
And math.
This year.
And corrects she's my own personal grammar Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I post or tweet or text gets corrected, and it's really irritating, so I brought her on to make fun of her. And we are drinking Wells Banana Bread Beer. It is 5.2% volume by alcohol. And let's see, the description. Well, that's kind of a story. Long ago, ale was known as liquid bread. We've used our long history of creating the finest malt blends and added fair trade bananas to awaken the sense with seriously fruity, rich, yet surprisingly versatile banana bread beer. It's not bad.
Got a hint of bananas.
Yeah. So I feel like this could be a very angry, potentially, because there's a lot going on in the world of education with core and things like that.
I will try to restrain myself.
You don't have to. You can say whatever you want. So, Kristen, I'm sure you feel like you have to teach kids how to take tests.
Yes, I feel like that's my primary job.
Yeah, and now from an artistic standpoint, Heather, do you feel like you have that same, there's not clearly the same type of instruction? Or?
It's gearing that way. We have like district determined measures that are coming out even in art, and you know, by 5th grade they have to do this, an art element test, they have to do a portrait. So yeah, I feel the pressure of.
So that's got to be pretty restricting, and so ideally, like, what do you guys think should be? I want to be like, oh, fix the system. We got an hour, but like, especially art is such a creative thing. Like, how do you test for that? Like, how?
Well, my goal this year and last year was 4th grade to do a value test.
Okay.
And I give like a still life, and it's a pre-test, and no, instruction on value whatsoever. And then they take the test, I collect it, and then I give value lessons. Paint the robot, monochromatic colors.
Yeah.
And half the portrait and shade it in, and a couple of other ones. And towards the end of the year, I give the same exact still life, and they do it, and then they self-assess. So
they score themselves on the test?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. I am awesome.
Well, they're brutally honest when they.
But
when they
I feel like that's a creative thing, anyways. I feel like creative people, like, if you asked me to judge my own painting, I'd probably just throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting, because like my art classes that I have always had were, beyond freeform. A lot of the art teachers were clearly coasting.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like, it's good that they have structure, but it's such a hard thing. Like, how do you teach kids to like think? That's really what you're trying to do. So, Kristen.
Well, it's interesting because when I originally went into teaching, I was going to be a music teacher. But then because I wanted to use my creativity and I wanted to be able to make a career out of music. But then I decided I probably wouldn't get a job because there's not much out there and there's a lot of competition. So I figured I'll do elementary because I can probably integrate art and music into the classroom. And I've been teaching now, this is my 21st year, I think. So back when I started.
Wow, Kristen, you must be pretty old.
Shut up. Yes, I am. So back when I started, you could do that sort of thing, and it wasn't frowned upon. But now I feel like I'm sneaking it in as much as I can. But if the powers that be feel like I'm not addressing the content as much as I should be, it's fluff, it's frowned upon, and I feel like it's doing such a disservice to the students, because there are certain kids who need that outlet, that creative outlet. Mm-hmm. I see a lot more behavior problems and things like that could be, lessened by giving them a creative outlet, singing or, drawing or something like that. So I try to encourage it when I can. I have a lot of kids who bring sketchbooks in, and so I'll take a couple of minutes at the end of class or something. I'll look through their sketchbook and compliment them. And the other value to seeing the art that they create is it tells a story about their personal life that I wouldn't get, by teaching them math or teaching them science. Mm-hmm. Just as an example, I had a new kid one year, and she showed me her sketchbook, and it was full of pictures of two girls. She kept sketching two girls. And I said, "What's the story with these two girls?" And she said, "Well, this is me, and this is my best friend who was in the town that I moved from."
Yeah.
But she said, "This is us when we're grown up, because we're still best friends." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." But I could see how much that move had impacted her, and how she really felt a loss of her friend. Mm-hmm. So, it kind of helped me in my interactions with her. And that kind of thing is lost when you're solely focused on, raise your test score, raise your test score, raise your test score. Mm. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I can see that. And you seem to agree with it. There's a lot more behavioral issues.
Oh, yes, huge. I've been teaching for 19 years, and it's the most I've ever seen. Yeah. Kids jumping on the table, throwing things.
Wow, really?
On the ground. Oh. Yeah.
And you, so what grades do you teach?
K through 5.
K through 5, and you teach?
This year I teach 6th grade.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't have kids jumping on the table, so thank goodness for that.
Yeah, and not so much this brand new kindergarten class is pretty good. Yeah. But they come in not knowing how to cut, not knowing how to...
So you teach them the most rudimentary skills, how to hold a pencil.
Yeah.
And, that's got to be kind of fun, though, because, do you feel that's kind of like where they're at their creative freest, because they don't have any kind of...
Yeah.
They don't know what not to do, basically.
Right.
Right. That's pretty cool.
And some of the stuff they say. I wish I wrote it down.
Yeah. Oh, my God. My kids at that age were...
I could be a funny book right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, going through all this, I'm sure you find enjoyment, but you clearly have outlets too. Mm-hmm. Heather comes to our life drawing classes all the time.
Well, it goes back to what you said about being your own worst critic. I'm like, it's horrible. I didn't even draw it yet, but I know it's going to be horrible.
No, you do great. So, do you guys feel that... you have this creative outlet to kind of blow off steam, and how do you work that into your normal daily life?
I do. I definitely do. Not at school, but I have a part-time job as a church organist, so I get to conduct the choir, and I get some music in that way. And at home, I can play the piano. My kids are, they love art and music, so I can do activities with them. I was taking pottery classes.
Oh, yeah, at Claycheck, right?
At Claycheck, in Plymouth. She's wonderful. That place is great.
Yeah. She did one of the lobsters down here, too. I think for the Cabbie Shack. So.
And I think she's doing your show.
She's messaged me about if 3D art was cool, and I'm like, dude, surprise me. Challenge me. Bring in stuff that I got to figure out. So.
And that's
Heather, you did bring in something?
I'm going to try.
Nice. Yeah. Excellent.
Yep. It's another great thing, just getting to talk to artists. Whatever kind of fine art it is, music, art, theater, anything, just getting to talk to people like that, that's such an energy.
Yeah, well, that's kind of why we started this whole podcast, was it's just fun to get kind of creative people together and see what they think, and we're all pretty much cut from the same cloth. So that's the interesting part. So what about you?
Well,
what is your favorite medium to work in?
Watercolor pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the wash and then building up on it. That's my favorite. But I have to say, after school, 7 classes straight, I'm dead tired.
You're dead tired?
Yeah.
More just kick back, relax, and
Sounds
decompress.
It's
Yeah,
just
but you guys have
fresh
all
air.
summer off because Kristen
There's a
constantly
reason
texts me
why.
that you guys have all summer off and reminds me that.
But there's a reason
I
why.
work in the summer.
Yeah, Kristen, she works
I
during
work
the summer.
part-time during the summer,
yeah.
and I have 3
Sundays.
children. I mean, believe me, I work.
Yeah. No, that's just our
I know.
thing.
Yeah, you're digging into
Yes,
it.
of course.
Always.
Yes.
He gets to do it September to June, and I get to do it June,
Pretty
July,
much every
August.
So
Yeah.
I'm losing on that battle.
So we have to say what all teachers say.
What do all teachers say?
We have to do PDPs. We have to do classes.
I don't know what PDP is.
We have to,
Professional development points. You need to earn them to recertify every 5 years.
yes.
Is it like frequent flyer miles, or like how does that work?
When you do certain activities, if you're lesson planning or if you take a course or, you could present
So you have to
things
like do work beyond work in order to continue to work?
Yes.
That doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
No.
Welcome to education.
And not much of it does.
Well, I don't, not to take the devil's advocate. I mean, I understand that like you kind of have to continue to educate yourself in order to to be relevant and educate other people.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of seems kind of silly to me. I feel like that should be
you want to be up on the latest, newest
Right, yeah,
ideas and
right.
techniques and strategies.
So is that
You know.
sort of thing totally put on you guys? Like, go out and learn?
Well, the
Or-
district provides, on these half days, where the kids go home. I just have
Oh,
one
these
today.
student development days?
Professional
Yes,
development
professional
days.
development days.
Right.
Yes, yeah,
We
yeah.
get points there.
Yeah.
Oh, so I figured you just guys went to the beach or something.
Yeah.
That's
Do our
June,
nails.
July, and August.
Do your nails, yeah. So I didn't realize that's good to know because I mean, as a former child and a parent, like you see these professional development days, and you don't know what that is. No one ever explains it to you, so you have to do additional classes in order to maintain your job.
And you have to get your master's within 5 years.
When you
after
first
graduate.
graduate.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. That's crazy. That's
Well, that's stressful for a new teacher,
yeah.
especially
It's
when they're
hard.
young with young kids.
So you're learning to, you've been to school, but you're still learning your job.
Oh, it's
and you have to do
baptism
your,
by fire.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, you've both, Heather, you've been in teaching for a little while, and Kristen, you've been in for like what, forever?
Yes, because I'm so old.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
I didn't know you could make it down the stairs with your walker like that. That's impressive. But so you must have students who have become adults. I mean, have you started to get like the children of former students in, or
I have, yes.
yeah, not yet, or
Well, I'm in art education,
Yeah.
which means I haven't stayed in one place.
oh, so you get bumped around a lot.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
like how often do you move?
Well, I started off in Plimpton, so I had Jesse's daughter.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yep.
And
You can say it louder.
hi, Sarah.
There you go. I don't know if she listens, but
yeah,
hopefully.
I don't know. And then I went to Bridgewater, and then I went to Norton, and now I'm in East Fairhaven. And it was
So
all
that's
because cuts.
four schools in 19 years.
Mhm.
That it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's kind of a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up another facet of all this is the fine arts programs are the first ones to get cut, generally. So when I am trying to integrate art activities into my classroom and I say, okay, take the paper and fold it in thirds, they have no idea how to do it. Or if I say, here, cut this way, they have no idea how to do it because they haven't had art education up till, a year or two before
It's horrifying
have
to even. I mean,
Yeah.
just the idea of fold this in thirds, and
they have no idea.
Or rulers.
In my district.
Yeah.
Rulers. Use of rulers. Forget it.
because I mean, I look at the idealistic. The kids should be able to create and have that decompression, but just those simple, basic. Hold the pencil correctly, and don't eat the paste. The basic stuff that you learn in the beginning. just to think that you don't have that, and it's scary. And as a parent, I'm lucky because my kids do have those outlets, and my daughter's an artist, and my son's a musician, and he's super into marching band, which is very cool. But it always just seems that those classes and programs are always just barely hanging on, and I feel like people don't realize how important they are.
No, but we are very lucky that we have some very supportive staff members who give of their own free time and money, and we have parents who are incredibly supportive because they know how important it is to their children. So some of these programs, where I am anyway, have been kept alive through parents and through generosity of staff members.
So there's always talking about school funding and this, that, and the other thing, and the evil corporations are always seeming to like worm their way in. Like, do you guys see that affecting your schools at all, like with soda machines or advertising or anything like that?
No, I think they're pretty restricted on what they're allowed to do.
Because when back in my day, which wasn't quite Kristen's day.
I was going to say that was a long time ago.
Not quite as long. It just seemed like that was just starting to kind of like worm its way in. Like, I remember we could get Papagino's pizza for lunch.
Well, I think Michelle Obama changed a lot of things with that. But I do remember seeing, just a few years ago, I remember seeing that some schools were advertising on the top of the buses and on the top of the school building to try and generate some revenue. On the top? Yeah, because, flying over you would see it or whatever. I don't know.
Or like Google Maps or something. Like Google,
And they figured the kids aren't being affected by it because they can't see it.
Right.
So I do remember reading about that a few years back.
That's really interesting.
But I've never personally seen it.
Yeah. So kind of to shift gears a little bit on the whole, I don't want to say dangerous element, but like the current climate of schools being, when I was a kid in school, no doors were locked. I mean, you come and went as you pleased. Do you feel that that's changed from when you were in school?
Yeah, it's completely different. Every classroom door is locked in my building. So not just the outside, every classroom door. So if a kid leaves, they get a knock to come back in.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. We just had like a pass. I mean, is it the same in your school or?
To get into the building, but no, my art room's not locked.
Yeah. I mean, like the art rooms that I remember having, there were like 2 art rooms and they're basically interconnected, and people kind of wandered around, did what they wanted. In a perfect world, like what would you envision your art classroom to be like?
Oh wow. I'm almost scared to like switching it to a tab school class.
What's a tab? What is that?
Teaching for artistic behavior.
Okay.
It's also called choice-based art.
Okay.
And I do that towards the end of the year, so the kids all look forward to it, and they save paper towel rolls, and they save recycling, because I have a recycling center, and I have a drawing center, and I have a painting center, and some teachers do that all year long.
Okay.
And when I was in a different school system, the teacher did it before me. Yeah. The grades before. And I felt like these kids were amazing. They would take like a matchstick, or that's fire. No.
Yeah. They burn the school down.
They take like a toothpick and then like, boom, 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 boom. This is a butterfly. And I'd be like, whoa. They were like the creative people I've ever met.
So it's more of a free form kind of do what you want kind of thing?
They come in and there's sort of some structure to it, because at the end they would have to explain how they did something. So it's, learning by doing.
Right, yeah.
So I love that part of it, but I felt like they came in and then like, what's 1 point perspective? What?
So they're missing some of the basics. Yeah.
So I felt like what I'm doing is trying to do the basics all year long, doing different artists, doing different art elements and stuff like that. And then at the end saying, like around May, here's the centers, and like, oh, they're like wiggling, they're like, the centers, and they love it. But by the end of it, I'm done. Yeah. By the last day of school, everything's like a mess, and like I'm like, whoa.
To me, that would be the way to do it, because you give them the fundamentals and then kind of let them loose and see what they can do with it.
Right.
That's interesting.
But I'm trying to rush it all in before May. Like,
Right.
oh, I have to do your final test and your final still life before May. So that's.
And what about
My perfect classroom?
your plan? Yeah.
There would be a lot less emphasis on test scores and more emphasis on educating the whole child.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see how it affects the kids. I give them a questionnaire at the beginning of the year just to find out a little bit about them. And they are all nervous about PARC or MCAS or whatever they're taking from day one. I've had to tell kids, you'll still go on to the next grade. If you don't pass that test, you'll still go to the next grade. They're worried they're not going to move on.
Yeah.
There's just such an emphasis on it. And a lot of skills are being left by the wayside. Social skills, anything creative. We're not educating, well-rounded citizens for the next generation. And it upsets me. I feel like I'm doing them a disservice, and I am being told to do this and being paid to do this disservice. And I feel powerless to change it.
And you basically would be punished,
if I don't.
If you don't.
Right.
So you don't really have much of a choice.
Right.
I actually listened to a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson today, and they're talking about how they feel like the way kids are taught now is just to regurgitate information, not to process any information or be curious about it. And to me, that's the frightening part. It's like, I want my kids to ask questions. I want personally, I feel like if a kid comes into class and asks a poignant question, not a dumb kid question, that relates to the topic that isn't necessarily in your plan, you should be able to address that, even if it takes the majority of the class, and take that whole class on that trip of where that information is going to take you.
And you're pretty limited with that, but I don't want to be all doom and gloom about the things that have happened in education, like with the Common Core and standards and all that. I do think some good has come out of it, because just as an example, like in elementary school, say you have 5 teachers who love to teach about dinosaurs.
Yeah. You're
not going to have to go through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade learning about dinosaurs, because now the state has said, this is the grade where you teach about that.
Right.
In this grade you teach about this. So at least they're exposed to a broad range of content, but it's stifled everything else. And I mean, the amount of content that we're expected to get through is unreal. I'm teaching math this year. I didn't last year. So I looked at my textbook, and I counted up how many lessons there are in the book that I'm expected to get through before the testing in May. And I allowed 2 days in between each chapter for a review day and a test day. And if I add up all those days, 1 day per lesson, so I can't slow down and reteach it the next day if they don't get it, I'm already past the testing date.
Wow.
So when I'm teaching now, and the kid's like, I don't get this, can we do this again tomorrow? And I say, nope, moving on to something else tomorrow. So if you don't understand it, just look at it at home, come to me at dismissal, I'll help you with your homework, maybe you can get it, then before you go. There's not enough time for the demands that they're putting on us.
And I feel like that parents aren't getting that. I recently overheard a conversation that a parent had with their kid's teacher, and it was just for me it was frustrating just because it defied logic. And she's like, well, he stays after, and it's your fault that he doesn't get it. And how is his grades dropping after one test? And I'm like, it's an average. If he bombed a test, his whole grade is gonna, and it's like almost like she wasn't understanding the basics. So like, how is he gonna? And that's gotta be such a frustrating thing.
It's frustrating all around, I think.
Yeah.
I've heard from parents who say, this isn't how I did math.
Right.
So I don't know how to help.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I remember there was, I think it was Zoe had a paper that was on the metric system, and it was draw a square around the animal that weighs more than a kilo and a circle around the animal that weighs less than a kilo. And you're like, all right, I can help with this. And you're like, an elephant, that's clearly more. A mouse, that's the fox. And I'm like, I don't have any drug dealer friends to call and ask if a fox, is that more or less? I have no idea. And yeah, so I mean, it gets to that point where you like, I don't know how to help you with, and so then you're like, okay, let's go to the computer and try to figure it out. But it's
that's another thing that's really changed everything is technology. you know, the amount
But you guys
of
don't have
technology in the
blackboards
room.
anymore.
No, we have interactive whiteboards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's wonderful. I don't know how to
How do
teach
you punish
without
the
it.
kids?
Oh, I know.
You can't
We
have
have
them
our
go bang
ways.
erasers.
We have ways.
Yeah.
No, but that's been wonderful. I don't know what's in your district. We have interactive whiteboards, so I can project anything from the internet or a video or whatever I want to do.
Or what does a fox say?
Yes, or what does a fox say, which I used in my science class one year as a reward. But we also have the Elmos, the document cams.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Elmo is a name brand.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
what ours. I don't think they're Elmos, but they're document cams. So I could take, you know, a student's work and put it under the camera, and it projects up on the board so everybody can see it.
Like an overhead projector type of thing.
Kind of, but it doesn't have to be on a transparency.
Right.
You used to have to make a copy on that.
An
you know,
opaque
filmy
projector.
Paper. Yes, it's an opaque projector.
Oh.
But we also have, in my class, I have a set of tablets that I can use with them.
Oh,
So,
really? That's cool.
Yep, so it's great for research. It's great for, you know, our textbook is online. You know, and I look up tons of websites that support what we're doing in class. So,
Do you feel that the technology has helped with art classes, or
Huge.
in what way?
I used to be the person with a bigger bag than that, full of
It's a pretty big bag.
full of art materials and visuals,
Mhm.
because you know art's visual, and I'd carry it and I'd load it up and I'd hold up books for reading books, and now I just I can play the video of the purple crayon, and they can watch Harold and the Purple Crayon for kindergarten.
Yeah.
They can watch the whole little YouTube thing, and then they draw
What's Harold and the Purple Crayon? I don't.
It's a kid's little crayon.
Yeah.
He draws with the purple crayon. Uses his imagination.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go home and watch that.
Yeah. So, but they could just watch it, and now it's beginning of the year, and I'm going through the art elements, so I show them a little line video. It's like 2 minutes.
Mhm.
It's a cute little cartoon, Scratch Garden, and I just showed them the pattern video, and it shows pattern, and kindergarten's all yelling out the pattern before they go to their seats. Little rug.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And the same thing, I show my examples and how to do something on the overhead.
Nice. That's cool.
I
Yeah.
tried to show them how to fold thirds on the overhead. It didn't go well.
I don't think you can fold an
We're
overhead
getting
projector.
there. We're just more practice.
Yeah. That's just baffling that that's an issue in.
They're
You
like
teach
11.
junior high, right?
Well, technically, yeah, middle school.
Middle
sixth
school?
grade.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and sometimes I feel like everything is beyond PC. I remember there was one time my kids are like, "Daddy, sit on the floor with us." So I sit down on the floor, and they're like, "No, sit crisscross applesauce." And I'm like, "Sit what?" And they're like, "Sit like we're sitting." And I'm like, "Indian style." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "You're sitting Indian style." And they're like, "This crisscross applesauce." I'm like, "That's bullshit. That's Indian style." Do you feel like you guys have to like be overly conscious about like what you say? And I mean, you're teaching a very young age, so it's not like you can bring in the Statue of David. But I mean, do you feel like you have to kind of be like aware of like
Oh yes.
kind of the repercussions of everything that you do?
Well, as a science teacher, I have to teach evolution, and for some families, that's a big no-no.
Right.
So the kids will say. So I had a kid come up to me the other day and say, "How was the Earth created? How did it get here?" And I said, "Well, that depends on who you ask." So I said, some people believe that I gave the scientific explanation, and then I said other people believe that God made Earth. So I said, what I want you to do, I said, I'm not touching this one. I said, go home and talk to your family, and I said they'll tell you, what your family believes. Because
Oh my God, that
I have to.
kills me.
So,
but I mean, is that
it's
like
not up to me to instill,
Yeah.
Religious beliefs or lack thereof.
I understand that, but I mean, it's the difference between a religious belief and this is how it is. It's being like, well, what color is the sky? Well, you got to go ask your mom what color the sky is. That's rough. I feel for you.
Thank you.
Which is also one of those points where I'm like, yeah, I could never ever be a teacher, ever. And we were talking about this the other day, and I wish I could remember what it was about, but there was something on the news, and it was something along those lines of, oh, well, some people think this, and then this is how it really is. And this woman's like, well, some people are going to think this, and what can you do? I'm like, no, that's bullshit. I'm like, you can't just be like, well, some people are going to choose to be stupid. But if that's how
I
it
have
is.
to be neutral.
Yeah.
I can't. The kids will say, well, what do you believe? And I said, well, that's personal and private, and that's up to me and my family. So I said, what you should be concerned about is what does your family believe? So, go home and have a discussion about it. So,
That's...
And thank God nobody's ever come back to me the next day and said, this is what my parents said is right,
That's brutal. All right, you deserve summer off.
All right, thank you.
Oh, shit. Can you edit that part out,
No,
please?
don't.
Oh, you keep it in there.
I'm going to record that on my phone and play it back.
That's going to be my
every day.
ringtone when I call you. You deserve the summer off. You deserve the summer off.
And now he said it like 3 times.
Yeah,
There's my ringtone
I don't know how you do that, because I would definitely get fired, because I'd be like, well, your parents are clearly clueless. That's rough. That leaves me speechless. I don't even know how you do that. But I mean that's. And so you run into these parents, and not only that, but they're like, well, why did you give my child such and such a grade?
Oh, that's the
and
worst.
do you even have letter grades in
Yes.
your? Oh, you do, because I feel like most levels are like.
It was standard based.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
So we're used to traditional report cards. People your age, old people, A, B, C, D, F, right?
Yeah.
So now what they do, instead of saying...
Did they not have that many letters when you were a
Shut
kid?
up. So instead of saying, like, science, you got a B- or whatever,
Yeah.
instead of saying science, it will list out what the state says they're supposed to know for the year. So it's these long, objectives. And you have to say, well, every school's different, but in my kid's school, it exceeds the standard, meets the standard, approaching or progressing towards the standard.
So there's no A, B, C, D, or...
not, beginning.
Yeah. Beginning.
So you get a letter. But the parents will, from what I've heard, we don't do it at my school, but from what I heard, parents will come in and go, well, what letter grade is this? Is this an A? Is this a B?
Because it's the way we understand it,
right.
They
do that.
And it's like when you get to those, like, beginning baseball, pee-wee baseball, whatever, when they're like, oh, we don't keep score, but the score is 6-7. It's like, you don't keep score, but everybody knows how many kids cross that plate. It's like, you can change the letter all you want, but it's still, I worked at Home Depot for ages, and they were talking about changing the review, and it used to be, God, now I can't even remember. It was OVI. One was exceeds, one was valued associate, and one's improvement needed. And like, oh, we're going to change, and they just changed the what the terms were. It's like they didn't change the structure, they just changed the name.
Somebody must have been offended by one
yeah,
being called a valued employee or something.
But do you feel kind of like how do you deal with these, especially from an art standpoint that's so subjective?
Oh yeah.
At least science, you can be like, well, they got 59 on 3 tests, and mathematically, let me show you on a piece of paper how the Earth was made. But like, you got to have these teachers that come in, like, or teachers, these parents that come in and say, like, well, why did you give my student this grade? And you're like, they earned that grade. Like, how do you?
Honestly, though, I feel like if the communication is there, which it should be, if you're a good teacher and you're doing your job and you have a kid who's slipping, you're in touch with that parent.
Yeah.
You don't give it a chance to get that far. And I always make sure I prep the kids. I actually have a gigantic poster in my room that I had made online, and it says, I don't give out grades, you earn them.
Yeah.
So they'll say, oh, thank you for giving me an A, and I point to the sign. And they're like, oh yeah, I earned an A. I'm
Well,
like, yes.
that's just as important, is not just
Yes.
that you earned an F, but you earned an A too.
Right.
And
exactly.
when I worked at that previous job, people had to be fired, and it's like, I didn't fire you, you got yourself fired. I didn't do anything. But I just feel like people kind of push that off on kind of to you guys, kind of like,
Right.
Back in, I don't want to, like, back in my day, but
A million years ago.
And less than you. But like, when I was in high school, like, if you got busted drinking or doing something wrong, you were to blame, not, well, who gave this to you? Like, that question never even came up.
Right.
It was like, what did you get yourself into? And I feel like that kind of blame is gone.
So that does make our jobs more difficult because it's a lot more record keeping.
Yeah.
You know, like I keep a call log of when I've called these people.
So you have to like document like
yes,
everything.
document everything.
Do you have the same experience? Or?
I do, only so I can put it in my binder.
Oh yes, the
Yes,
binder,
we have
the
an
evaluation binder.
binder.
The hell's an evaluation binder?
This big. Well, my first one, seriously, was that big.
Oh.
Yeah.
With all my papers in it to prove that I can teach.
Like you have to like carry this with you to like.
I gave it to my principal.
You have to turn it in the spring. So you're supposed to all year long. You set a couple of goals at the beginning of the year. There's a student learning goal, and there's a professional goal. And so you have to collect evidence throughout the year to show, what are there, 5 or 6 standards or something?
More than that, I don't even know. Is that bad?
But you have to collect evidence on all these standards, that you're doing all these things that you are supposed to do. And you present it in the spring to your evaluator, who will then tell you if you are, what was it, exceptional? Is that the top one? Proficient, needs improvement.
Right.
Or, I forget what the other one is. I wouldn't know because I'm not there.
Whatever those other losers are doing.
Exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, and something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the thing I like about it, though, is I'm sure at some point in your school career there was some teacher who you're like, why didn't she retire a million years ago? Why can't they fire her? You know, she's so horrible. Why is she working here?
Yeah, she showed up drunk and they fired her.
Oh, well, all right, well, right on.
Yeah.
But if you are in the lower end of that whole evaluation tool, you're put on a plan, and they can dismiss you, I believe it's 90 days. If you're, there's some time frame that you have to prove that you have demonstrated growth in the area that they said you were deficient. And if you can't prove that you're, improving, they'll fire you. And the union can't do anything about it after a certain point. But so it's the people who've been there forever. You're not necessarily safe. If you're not doing your job, they can still get rid of you.
So how much of yourself can you kind of put into your class? Like, I don't know about you, Heather, but Kristen's kind of a nerd. So like,
math and science.
she kind of like, are you able to work like Doctor Who into your lessons?
Oh, I absolutely do. Yeah.
So,
if you look at research, at how kids learn best, if you look at brain-based learning, if you can make an emotional connection with the kid, that helps stick the information.
Yeah.
So I do everything I can to connect with those kids. I tell them jokes. I talk about my family. But just as an example, today they had to take a quiz, and it was a true-false section, but it was different. It was a statement with an underlined word, and if the statement is true, write true. If it's false, change the underlined word to make the statement true.
Okay.
So I wrote examples on the board. I wrote number 1, Ms. McKay has 3 kids, and I underlined 3. And then I wrote number 2, Ms. McKay drives a Lexus, and I underlined Lexus. So I said, all right, number 1, is that true or false? And they said, true. They all know all the stories of my kids. Number 2, is that true or false? False. I said, what goes in the blank? They all said Jeep. So they know me very well. And, anything I can get in there. We talk about Star Wars. We talk about Doctor Who. I'll try to talk sports with them, even though it's not my thing.
And he kicked the home run really far at that time.
When I did the pottery class, I would take pictures of the pieces I made, and I would show them on the document cam the next day. I'd put my cell phone there, and, I gave them all little pottery. I think I told you about those. I made little pottery circles, and I painted phases of the moon on each one.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, I gave each kid one, and I signed the back.
You told me about Miss McKinney money.
Oh, McKinney money, yes. That's
that
a
you
great
bribed
incentive.
them.
No, it's not bribes. Oh. If they get an A or a B, they get $5 or $2 of McKinney money, and then I auction off all this crap I have in my classroom that they love to buy. So,
so how do you? Is it easier or harder to connect with younger students? I mean, have you always taught the same age bracket, or?
No, I started off student teaching high school.
I feel like that would be tough.
And I just kind of fell into elementary. And I do goofy voices, and I laugh a lot. So I think I'm in the right age for now.
Is your certification K-12? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember I ran into a high school friend who's a teacher. And like you said, you laugh a lot. And it's like that age, you just never know. And they had made groundhog hand puppets. And but like a week prior, so it was on her desk, and she was just sitting there, and the kid comes up and goes, "Wow, that's a nice beaver," and she's like, "What?" And he's like, and she's like, "Oh, that's a groundhog." It's just you just never know what's going to come out of their mouth, and it's I remember my kids always said goofy stuff, and it was hysterical. So that's got to be kind of.
You actually just gave me a great idea for a lesson, so thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want a pen? I don't have a pen.
No, I'll remember it.
Right.
No, I'll remember it.
I can text you.
I'll tell you about it later.
All right. I feel like that's bad.
It's either
I shouldn't be giving you ideas about anything.
Nothing to do with beavers. Just so you know.
But because we're always talking sciencey stuff, I saw on YouTube they found like the oldest recorded mammal.
Oh,
was
I didn't see that.
related to a beaver. And it was kind of like right on the verge of the dinosaurs dying out and mammals kind of taking over. Yeah,
Well,
so you have to look into it.
That up.
It was on YouTube, so it's got to be 100% true.
Right.
It was also like right behind that they were going to clone woolly mammoths. So
well, it's funny that you talk about that because we talked about technology and how it's improved education, but and connecting with the kids different ways. We had an ongoing joke last year about carnivorous zebras, which obviously don't exist. But one of the kids, one of the kids was trying to do some research on zebras last year, and of course he went to Wikipedia because where else do you go when you want valid facts about science stuff? And it said that zebras were carnivorous. I think he said he went to Wikipedia. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was the big joke. Every time something happened, it was like, oh, the carnivorous zebra must have done it. It was great.
That's pretty good. And wasn't narwhals a thing?
Oh, they love narwhals. Yeah.
There's always into narwhals, so it must be an age thing.
The kids like to draw them.
Yeah.
And they love the song. You know the song, right?
I think you played it for me.
Probably.
You played that and the Walrus Song?
Oh, the Walrus Song is great. Which I can't play in school.
Love. It's about a walrus that is a cannibal.
And he's going to walrus hell.
Yes. I played it for my kids. So we didn't care for it so much.
Really?
I mean, she liked it in that kind of like, oh, this is creepy.
I got a couple of good ones for you too. Little kids will tell you.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us what songs?
Yeah, some songs.
By all means. That's what
well, they have nothing to do with anything curriculum.
That doesn't matter.
But I'll play them like right before dismissal or something. There's one. It's called the Elephant Song. Have you ever seen this? It's a song. He says, "Elephants, I love elephants," and then he says, "I love how they." I forget what it is, but it's something that like swing through the trees in the jungle. And the little kid goes, "No, that's not elephants. That's monkeys." Oh, monkeys. Monkeys, I love monkeys, and the song just goes on and on. But the kids love it. Cute. Yeah, and there's a monster in my house. That's a good one. You've never heard that?
I know
one?
that cashews come from a fruit.
Oh, that's a great one too.
That's the Tobuscus viral song. Yes,
yep.
My kids love that. So.
The monster in my house is a little kid who hears a monster growling at night. It's the dad snoring, but he doesn't know it through the song. And he goes and gets the hose because he's going to squirt that monster. So by the end of the song, he realizes that it's his dad. But the kids just love it. But for little ones...
Yeah, that would be good art lesson. I do Monster in Your Closet, that book.
Perfect.
And draw
nice.
Whatever is coming out of the closet.
So they get to draw like the monster in their closet?
Yeah.
Nice.
Their choice.
Yeah.
And the video's all animated, so it's very cute.
And apparently you can just project it onto the
That's right,
the super scientific board. We should chisel on a clay tablets, I guess. So something that we do here, which I forgot to do on the last one. So what, Kristen, we'll start with you. What is, I know it's nothing wrong.
I know, you're making me nervous.
Two things. What is something that kind of influenced you to get into teaching, specifically, like, because you touched on like why you wanted to be a music teacher, but like why science? And what is something that you're watching, reading? Like, what should people just check out? Like, just general.
Oh, these are hard questions. All right, why did I get into science? Was that the first one?
Yeah,
Okay.
Was there someone specific that kind of influenced you to get into teaching or teaching science? Or?
No, the reason why I went into teaching was when I went to college, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I wanted to do everything.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I do elementary education, I can do everything.
Yeah.
You know, with the music and all that. But I've just always loved science. My mom worked in one of the hospitals in Boston. So when I was growing up, or when I was in college, I would go visit her all the time, and I was always fascinated by medicine and just the stuff the doctors did. She was able to get me into cardiology rounds, actually, and autopsy rounds, and I was able to see a lot of really cool stuff that way. And I just always have loved science. So.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is you get to do hands-on stuff with the kids. It's not just sitting there, looking at a book, writing stuff.
Yeah.
The science is interesting to them. They like it, and it's relevant because it's all around them.
Right. And you can't do like Bunsen burner stuff anymore, though, right?
No fires in school. I used to be able to do stuff with candles, but you can't have flames in school. No.
Heather's giving her kids matchsticks.
They make butterflies out of them.
So, like, what's one thing that you're watching, reading, listening to?
Actually, when I get home tonight, I'm going to try to start the next season of American Horror Story. I haven't seen that yet. Oh,
nice, yeah.
So that started last week, but my TiVo didn't record it.
What is it themed, do you know?
I don't, obviously there's more information now, but I don't know. I haven't been looking on purpose, but when they put out teaser trailers, I guess only one of them was real, and the other ones were
oh, really? They
like
just kind of
red herrings.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's just called, as far as I know, American Horror Story 6. There's no, like hotel or, asylum or, like the other ones. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I can't recommend it because I haven't seen it. Right.
So when I ask you to recommend something, you're like, I don't know.
I'll think of something
There's
else.
a trailer I saw. It's a fake one. What about you, Heather? What kind of influenced you to get into teaching and teaching art?
Well, I have to say I was kind of messed up my senior year. I got into a car accident and got a head injury.
In high school or college?
High school.
Okay.
So my first college in a fog was nursing school. Mm-hmm. Because the only thing I knew was the lady that took care of me.
Oh, right, yeah, because that's
all I knew, because I lost my memory.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
So,
That's crazy.
Here I am taking anatomy and physiology with no memory of, like, high school.
Oh, that's going to be rough.
Yeah, that was a tough D.
Did those
That's a tough course anyway.
Did those memories ever come back, or is it just kind
faintly, of... people say, well, I don't remember anything either, so, I don't know. But, so, slowly things came back like, hey, I like to draw, and I love art. So I went into fine arts, and I took the minor in education just in case, see what happens. And then I had kids, and I was like, oh, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I get summers off.
Wait, do you have to work over the summer?
Go.
You do. Forgot.
But I have enough time to egg your house.
And I deserve the summer off, right? I do. I deserve the summer off.
Who would say such a horrible thing? No. That's been deleted from ever. Never happened.
Yeah. So it was the best choice ever.
Yeah.
But my love for art has to be from junior high, from local Charlie Sorrento. He shows his art in Plymouth, and a retired art teacher. So hi, Charlie, if you're listening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just, I had, the memory I have is I had lunchtime, I had art class in the old study hall. And I would just hang out in junior high in the art room.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he used to give me Sports Illustration magazines. Here, draw the baseball player. Here. So I just learned how to draw by just hanging out and doing.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
And like, what's one thing that you're into right now, either music or TV show or movie or book or?
You know what? I only could focus on TV this summer.
Yeah. When both you guys were sitting around doing nothing?
Nothing doing. No, I'm seriously, I can't watch much TV.
Yeah.
I don't like series because I can't get in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up either watching HGTV, See Who's Selling What, or Chopped. And I usually catch like half of it. Like
Chopped, that's the
Food Channel
it's
thing.
like a competitive thing, right?
Yeah. Like the basket thing.
Oh yeah. The one I watched, my son actually got me into was Cutthroat Kitchen.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's like 4 people competing, and then like
it's kind of
they'll be halfway through the competition, and they'll be like, "All right, who wants to bid money so your competitors can't use pots
Oh.
and can only use aluminum foil? So they're like fashioning aluminum foil pots, or
Watch that.
it'll be like, oh, you're gonna make pancakes. Who wants to use a tea light candle and a tin can? You know, and it's just like these most. They make edible things that the judges are like, this is good, and you're like, he had no knives and was cutting with the can lid, and it's that creative kind of problem solving. You're put into this situation where you have to make a souffle and you have no heat other than a microwave, and just like, how are you going to solve that problem? It's
they need
fascinating.
art classes. That's how they need to solve their problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been through cooking school, which I feel is a good form of that. You know, but yeah, and I honestly, I really am concerned. I really feel lucky that my kids are leaning towards the arts, but for people in general, because I feel like art allows you to problem solve. And it gives you those kind of creative outlets to make you think outside the box.
Right.
I hate that term, but
no, it's such a cliche. But I've heard that, you know, in the past, that's why American workers were so valued over workers from other countries, because that's the way that they thought.
Right.
They weren't just automatons, and you know.
It's not just put this bolt through this.
Right.
After a while, I heard a really great quote. It was from I think it was Bill Gates. I'm always going to give the hardest job to the laziest worker because they'll find the easiest way to do it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's genius.
That's great.
You know, and it's kind of that, like, here's the job, go do it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I left my previous job, was it didn't give you that kind of, you know, was do this, do this, do this, do this. Well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. You have to do it. And be like, yeah,
that sounds almost like teaching, actually.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I kind of understand your frustration. And why I wanted to get you guys on here is it's that, and I feel like a lot of parents don't, like, they may understand it, but they don't really hear it, you know, and it's that, it's so rigid, and it's teaching someone, like, because, you know, we all teach our kids how to do stuff, even, like, the most basic things, like, oh, go make a grilled cheese sandwich, and your kid might be like, you know, I want to put onion in this grilled cheese sandwich. You might be like, rock on, that might be great, you know? But, like, in schools, it'd be like, no, you can't do that. That's not in the curriculum. And that's got to be so frustrating.
Right.
So.
And the time.
Yeah.
No time to do everything.
Yeah.
So,
but we don't want to work summers either.
Well, we could just extend the school year all year round.
They'd have to pay us. Not happening. I never worry about that.
But no, so as a parent, I want to thank you guys for being teachers. And without good teachers, well, I'd have stupid kids.
Well, we appreciate the good parents like you, too, who work with your kids and hold them accountable and, you know, get them to school on time and all that good stuff.
My kids are way better people than I am. I don't know how that happens. But no, from all the good parents, thank you guys, and thank you for being a part of the podcast. You guys don't really have websites or anything to plug.
No.
But you know, just read books, be decent parents, and
be creative.
oh, that was another interesting thing that I saw. It was a study done on how reading to your kids had no effect on how they did in school, but the one thing they realized was the amount of books the parent owned had a direct correlation. It's like, well, because smart parents make smart kids.
Right.
So yeah, don't plug anything. Make your kids smart. Teach them things. And as far as Inebri-art goes, we're always going to plug our life drawing at New World Tavern the first Monday of every month, which Heather goes to religiously.
I was going to say, why are you giving me the evil eye here?
Kristen's been there like maybe once.
Okay. At the beginning, I was going every month.
Actually, you were very good in the beginning.
Yes, I was.
And then you're like, screw that guy. It's summertime.
I suck at going.
You do
but
not
if I know that there's an art teacher going there, maybe I'll come and sit next to her.
I keep telling you that group has exploded.
Oh, that's
everyone there is so great.
They are
like
fun.
really, really great.
Oh, it's not anybody there. It's me, my own worst critic.
No, but it's just fun. It's just so much fun. But you can follow Inebri-art on Facebook or on Twitter at Inebri-art. And again, thank you guys for coming.
Thank
you.